You know, that's one of the big things I want to talk about, Mark. I mean, why don't you tell people what the plan is in the Middle East? Because it's surely not to leave. I mean, when they talk about a redistribution of forces, for instance, Biden is putting on the propaganda pretty thick. West is not winning in Afghanistan. So now they're saying, oh, the violence is in Afghanistan. We're not winning there. We need more NATO troops. We need more U.S. troops there. We're going to redistribute our forces into Afghanistan while keeping at least 50,000 in Iraq at the end of 2011, you know, during an election year. So, you know, what do you think the vision is for the Middle East right now?
Well, the Middle East is one of the last areas to be modernized, so to speak, with the New World Order. So they're still very traditional. I mean, those are some places where people still kind of live the simple life, and now they're starting to get modernized. And so the Illuminati need to indoctrinate, for their own plans to come through. They're going to indoctrinate that area and bring it into the New World Order and create those governments and establish those governing forces and those structures so that they can then control them and bring them into the New World Order, into the one world government, so that eventually they'll have a Middle Eastern union and a Middle Eastern currency, and they'll be able to control that area as well, which will then ultimately be merged. All regional currencies will be merged into the one global currency, into probably an RFID chip or a biometric device, and so that you will basically outlaw cash. They want to be able to track every purchase, no black market, every transaction is taxed. There's already talk now about taxing services here in America, and for many people, some people don't know, but services usually aren't taxed. So products are taxed. If somebody comes over and washes your windows, that's a service that is not taxed. Somebody sells you those windows, then you're paying sales tax on that. So now they want more taxes for services. So the Middle East is being brought into the New World Order. It's interesting, there's a letter that was circulating, allegedly written by Albert Pike, the 33rd degree Freemason, the author of Morals and Dogma, where the Freemasons were discussing creating these 3 world wars in order to bring about the structure and the system, the events that they need to make the New World Order solidify. And it's interesting that the Third World War was between basically those who are supporting Israel and the Muslims, and so that's why they're funding all the terrorism. That's why they've funded the Mujahideen, and they need to fund both sides so that they can have their synthesis, so that they can offer their solution. So that's the next step in the New World Order, and then ultimately to get that section of the world as modernized as we are, and then as we evolve with the facial recognition cameras and the thumb scanners everywhere, that same plan will then be coming over there. So now the people are getting their satellite TVs, they're getting their internet, and then the next thing is going to be more modernization, more high-tech surveillance, and the Big Brother surveillance grid will then be moved and implemented over in that section of the world. There's also some religious implications as well. We can, maybe in a further broadcast talk about some of the spiritual and the esoteric aspects to this New World Order and to that specific area, but that's the first phase, is to modernize them, to get control of the government so that section can be pulled into the system that they're developing.
Well, on that cashless society control system that you were talking to, we have some great callers already on this show, and somebody called in today talking about this North Korea system that I didn't even know about. It seems that in South Korea. In South Korea, they've now made a system for 100,000 of its citizens where it's totally cashless, and they pay with their SIM card from their cell phone. We're going to bring the story up. We're going to analyze it after this. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com. Obama deception drops early tomorrow. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, and we're talking cashless society control grid. And this one's out of BBC, Challenges to a Cashless World. Here they're talking about a technology where you can have a chip in your phone to make a contactless payment to the point where waving your phone across a reader or dialing a number. And this was actually announced in 2008. And it basically said later this year, through 12 countries, including Australia, France, and Holland, will pilot a cashless wallet system. The technology consists of a mobile phone embedded with a SIM card that contains the information from all of the cards normally stored in a consumer's wallet. credit cards, loyalty cards, gym memberships, and the like. In other words, it is going to have any kind of binary data you want on there, from your Social Security card to your medical information. And everybody, not everybody has a SIM card in their phone, but the majority of us. I mean, if you have AT&T, you probably have a SIM card. And T-Mobile still uses SIM cards. It's a very small piece of equipment. And it's a piece of equipment that, doesn't seem that imposing. But when it's going to replace cash, and you're going to have a credit system that is on one little piece of metal, you better think twice. It was in America, Freedom to Fascism, with the section where Aaron Russo discusses his conversations with Nicholas Rockefeller, where he says, if you get out of line, we just turn your chip off, and you can't do anything. And that is the plan, isn't it, Mark?
That's the plan, and then think about the control that there is. I mean, I've just recently started using Facebook. I never used Facebook. I use MySpace just to kind of try to get the word out, and I started using Facebook, and it's utterly creepy. Every time you make a comment on a friend's picture, somebody can go through and see who your friend is and see which comment you posted and see who they're friends with and who they just became friends with. And
there's a news feed. The news feed just totally tells what everyone has done. Like, if I visit your page, I can go see the news feed, and it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with your friends and what they've commented on and what you've done. So you get like a whole plethora of information about people without even trying.
And what they're doing, where they're going, what parties they're attending. I see so many people that post their phone number and their address on there. It's absolutely ludicrous. But it is about control. It's about taxation, because everybody knows that you can just use cash, and somebody sells a car or sells a service or a product, that they can pay cash and not declare tax on it. So Big Brother and the Fed's not going to get their cut. So by making cash an enormous inconvenience or almost non-existent, they're going to be able to tax everything, and then you're going to have this infinite profile on you, who you shop with, what you buy, how much you spend, when you spend, where you spend it, how many times did you buy this particular item in the last month. And some people say that that's not a big deal, but look, we don't need an open book. We don't need to have the government looking at our private lives or marketers. I don't want people targeting me and telling me, pitching me products based on my purchasing history. If I'm interested in a product, I'll go and buy it. And it's largely about taxation, but it's also about control, because just like the government can seize your assets if you're a tax evader or if you have some sort of charges filed against you. Just imagine having your assets frozen, having no ability whatsoever to purchase anything. And here's a quote from Carroll Quigley's book, which was published in 1966. Carroll Quigley was a professor and a mentor of Bill Clinton, and I believe that he got Bill Clinton involved in the Rhodes Scholarship Program. And so back in 1966, in his book, he says, the powers of financial capitalism had a far-reaching aim, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. This system was to be controlled in a feudalist fashion by central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreements arrived at frequent meetings and conferences. The apex of the system was to be the Bank for International Settlements, a private bank owned and controlled by the world's central banks, which they were themselves private corporations. Each central bank sought to dominate its government by its ability to control treasury loans, to manipulate foreign exchanges, to influence the level of economic activity in the country, and to influence cooperative politicians by subsequent economic rewards in the business world. And this is a quote not written by somebody that's trying to expose the system, to have more accountability and to educate people. This is a book, Tragedy and Hope is the title, which was written for insiders. And so since most people are so stupid and never read and would never read this book, this is just a book that Bill Clinton, that Barack Obama, that all these people have on their reading list, that they read when they're in college, so that they know how the system works.
And that's why he gives a shout-out to him in the State of the Union address and when he was, I believe, his acceptance as the president. We'll be back with Mark Dice after this. It's the Info Warrior with Jason Bermas, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv. Pushed to the floor and expected to die. And full of dirt. And that's the point. They want you to fight their wars, but they don't want you to own anything. That's why they're taking your house. That's why there's this huge mortgage crisis. That's why they're going to take down the banking system to consolidate it into this bigger global banking system where you will have less and less, and they will redistribute the wealth so that the elite get more and more, and that the middle class become a distant memory. But then we have Gordon Brown before Congress telling us we're amongst the era when we'll have the largest middle-class population in the whole entire world, because all those people that are working in the third world nation sweatshops now will soon become consumers, and this will create this large middle class. No, Gordon. What's going to happen is first world nations like ourselves are going to be taken down to second world nation status and into socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it, more government control, and there won't be a middle class when you people are done, because you're sick, you're tyrannical, and you need to be stopped. And, that's what this show is about. It's about exposing who these people are and telling people what they can do to fight this system.